if you can't learn language from wolves, then how did the Romans learn to talk?
That's a good question.
Where did Latin come from?
No. You develop language. I think the current thinking is that the brain is hardwired to develop language, but you need to be around other people to do it. This is the sort of like needing to be able to be held by your mother will actually help you develop certain pathways in your brain, and if you don't have it, then they won't develop as well. You need to be and there was some sort of thing about all these deaf people in Africa, and they didn't know what to do with them, so they all put them in one group, and they sort of spontaneously developed their own sort of sign language.
Awesome.
Yeah,
Tuning
I wanted to throw in just to let DPR know. Scooter did an interview with me on the radio, and then I would have included that in my list of such things. But he wrote me an email that said that his recording of that had been lost to the ether. But then we met up. Yeah, we met up at this last in Houston for the what was it? The Texas Free Thought Convention.
Right.
It was the first time we met in person. Anyway,
So
go ahead.
Are we still talking about science, tech, and technology and nerdy things?
Yeah, we're not talking about religion.
What would you like to talk about, Scooter?
Picard or Kirk?
I take care of buildings for a living, and I wanted to talk about the recent developments in lighting. Since we're talking about green stuff, because it's actually pretty interesting. People don't talk about it very much. And so we have the compact fluorescent curly Q bulbs. Well, those are basically an adaptation of fluorescent lighting, which is they fluoresce a gas, which creates black light. It hits the coating on the bulb and then turns it into visible light. The problem with that in the past has been that fluorescents make this awful blue prison cafeteria kind of lighting. And in the past 6 or 7 years, people have been working on the coatings, and now they put out any kind of color you want. So putting this in your house is a pretty good idea for a lot of reasons. They don't blip right on, but I mean, if you can't wait 20 seconds for light, come on. But not only
LEDs is the future.
Oh, you're absolutely right. I was going to get to those next. They're kind of a little bit in the affordable range right now. So going to compact fluorescent isn't bad if you don't mind waiting a few years for the LEDs to come down. Because right now it's going to be a hard time to recap the money, putting out capital for LEDs. I mean, they're still like $30 a piece. But the thing that people don't think about with these, besides saving money on your electrical bill, is that if you live in a house that's old and has old wiring, or like one of those crappy houses that they built in Texas in Boomtown over the weekend. The problem is, the advantage is that they draw far less amperage, which means that you're not blowing circuits, or your wiring's not heating up, and the chances of your house burning down go way down. So there's a lot of advantages to them. And as far as the LED technology, it's awesome. We switched over one of our buildings to that, and it's great, but it's quite an investment. But what's interesting is when you see these lighting technician trucks coming into light theaters for shows and rock shows and things, what they used to do is they used to carry around these cables that are as big as your arm, and now they just have little lamp cables. So that's how cool this stuff is.
Sorry, they now have just what?
Now they have just basically like a lamp cable. They run everything on like 12-inch wire. So it's a cool technology. And even though
I was under the impression that still when it came to lighting, that you really couldn't beat for the spectrum, basically the 1,000 Kelvin incandescent bulb, that if you wanted lighting for films or something, that was still the way that they did it. I'm not sure where the you're talking about movie making. About movie making? Yeah, so it's two things. First of all, when you get the fluorescents that you're talking about, and LEDs certainly, if you ever actually look at these on just a regular, whatever you can call it, yeah, you can see the flicker. And you don't get that with the incandescents. I think there's also the thing, the spectrum is better with them.
Oh, I see what you're saying. I see what you're saying. I can't really answer that. What I can say, though, is that the color, the technology for producing whatever color you want from a fluorescing bulb is advanced within the last 4 or 5 years to where they can give you anything. Now, the stuff that they sell in hardware stores, basically it's on the Kelvin scale. And I recommend if you're putting them in the house, don't go for what they call the natural light or sunshine. Go for the lowest radiation. I mean, the lowest wavelength. Those are easier on your eyes, and it also makes color sort of pop a little bit better than what they call the imitation sunlight. But that technology, as far as color not being washed out and giving you a headache and all that, that's already we're past that threshold. They can put out any color they want with those. And I have like special tubes in stores that I don't sell the stuff. I just use it, But that I put in the stores that lights up bakery goods compared to meat. I can make a gray old piece of meat look like so red and juicy. It's ridiculous. It's almost. I hate to talk about marketing, but we all got to do it.
And you came on and criticized us for talking about nerdy things, and you're talking about making change color in a different lighting systems.
Let me make it even more nerdy.
Turns
out that you know how meat usually goes all brown after a day or two.
Or gray,
that's actually due to the
oxidation.
Not oxidation. It's losing the oxygen from the heat. And so what they tend to do is they inject carbon monoxide, which binds a lot more strongly to the hemes and makes the meat go very red.
I want that. Carbon monoxide. It's a real favorite.
So that's basically how they keep meat redder for longer. Is they do it under a better carbon monoxide.
Right. Well, I work at one of them organic places, so we don't do terrible things like that.
Well, I want to press this issue because we're coming towards the end of the show, and I do want to also take an opinion from the people watching. You referred to it as nerdy. I don't know whether you were.
I was a part of myself.
Yeah, but we have tried to steer off religion for the duration of this show. What do people think? Do they prefer a more scientific show, or do they prefer the religion? Thumbs up for religion bashing, thumbs down for more science content. Let's see how we do that.
I'm sure religion is going to win.
Well, we've got a lot of people saying mix it up. But,
well, you've already created your audience, so you're going to have to push the skepticism and the science stuff a little before you take the poll. I think
it's 50-50.
It's pretty 50. Well, mix it up and
well, I mean, so this is the thing. Let's try biased towards science, thumbs up. Biased towards religion, thumbs down.
Isn't that an oxymoron saying a bias towards science?
No. So I mean, at the moment, it's science or religion, and this is much more confused picture.
Yeah, look, the way I see it, I'm going to bash religion and promote science regardless.
I think the problem is that we started off when we started and when we were called League of Reason in those days, doing a more balanced mix between science and religion, and I think that what we have done more recently is tend to get bogged down in religion, and as I say, I think people are perhaps, I don't know, getting a bit bored with religion bashing because we're using, like the religious are using the same arguments, we're using the same arguments against them. I think that it's sort of like has lost something as a result of that. I don't know. So,
I'm not
you've got a
overly
specific
concerned.
question, Dr. Frank. They're asking, will you visit Norway and give a lecture soon? I thought you'd been to Norway recently, or are you going?
Oh yeah, I was in Norway 3 times over the last couple of months to give lectures. I was actually in their parliament giving a talk on genetics just a few weeks ago. But I will probably be going there again. I'll be going to Stockholm very soon to release my book and do a talk.
Nobel Prize!
Yeah, they called me from Stockholm. What can I say?
You're not You're not going to be like on this side of the pond, say,
Oh yeah.
late March, right?
No, but late April.
Okay.
I'll be giving a talk in Boston on April.
Late April, I'm going to be on. Yeah, late April, I'm going to be on the other side of the planet, so it doesn't matter.
Well,
let's talk about a useful segue into the next few shows that we're doing. We will be dealing with. In fact, I might invite Aaron to tell us about the next show and the topic.
All right. Well, we've arranged an interview. We're probably going to do a recorded interview and then play parts of that because some of the subject matter is sensitive, and also there's some issue with time constraints on when we can actually do this. But we're going to be interviewing Gary Foxcroft. He's the director of Stepping Stones Nigeria, and they are a group that seeks to rescue and defend children who are accused of witchcraft. And the statistics, so far as I understand them, are that in Nigeria, there have been a number of Pentecostal witch hunters who have killed up to 15,000 local children accused of being witches. And the way that these children are killed,
proud of it as well, yeah. Yeah, it's almost their badge of honor is how many witches they've killed.
From what I've seen from the videos that have come from that area, trying to call attention to this matter, some of these children are forced into fires, or they're forced into pits, and then burning rubbish is thrown on top of them, or they're spattered with highly corrosive acid, leaving lifelong scars. Many of them are starved, beaten, or just outright beaten to death. And a lot of them are fed poisonous and really unsafe products as a means of exorcism, because somehow these people actually believe that these children are being occupied by demons. And much like in the Middle Ages, when they would burn people at the stake, and they would think that the person, the victim who is on fire, is somehow thankful for having the demons wrested from their body. From what I've seen of the videos from this area, these people, these priests and such that are doing this, believe that they are rescuing the children by torturing them to death.
And you've missed out the crucial point. One of the major people who is responsible for this witch hunt against children is a Pentecostal preacher who is visiting Texas. Is that right, Aaron?
Yes, that's how I became aware of it. Stacey Gonzalez, who was a filmmaker, did Godless, contacted me not too long ago to call attention to this woman, Helen Upabio, who was being flown to Texas, coming to Houston at the expense of local Houston ministries, because they want her to continue her method of evangelism here. Now, it's important also that I call attention to the fact when you talk about somebody like this. How could you have somebody like this and have her be accepted into this society at all when people know what she's done? I'll give a precedent. One of her associates.
They've done witch trials. Damn, I mean, I thought this was a done deal.
One of her associates, who had also killed several dozen children, reportedly, has already been to this country and went on stage to do a laying on of hands for Sarah Palin. So it is possible that these people will let murderous, child-murdering witch hunters into the country in order to do this sort of thing and reward them for being the psycho batshit baby killers that they are. But don't have an abortion, or don't try to promote stem cell research. Kill them after they're born.
We're organizing in Houston, by the way. So.
Oh, tell us what you're up to and what you're doing.
And make sure to make that.
Yeah, Stacey Gonzalez, Staise Gonzalez. You could Google her. We're organizing on Facebook. We're trying to figure out where the heck she's coming in, because they're sort of keeping that on the sly. And
I want to know who's funding her, who's forking over the money to fly her into the country.
I'll send you information on that, but they're called the Liberty Church or something like that. I believe they're called the Liberty Church.
Yeah. For all the children they liberate. I really did think that this was all over and done with the Salem witch trials. That was what, 200 years ago? 150, something like that?
Yeah,
As
well,
long as the thing that we cannot discuss today continues to exist, the Middle Ages will never be completely dead.
But it's one of those things. It's a done deal. Even the most crazy wouldn't go back to saying we should put people on trial for being witches.
Apparently, it's
And yet
not
here
a done
they
deal
are.
in Nigeria, Thunder.
I know,
Yeah.
but okay, yeah, that I can understand. But what I can't understand is importing it into America.
Well, the Liberty Church has already retaliated by putting a terrible webpage out, ridiculous. I mean, a really badly done webpage out with terrible spelling, with a picture of Stacey Gonzalez on it, describing how if you look at this picture, you could see the devil inside of her.
No.
Yeah, so we're having a lot of fun with that.
All right,
kind of scary.
Scooter, you've got to promise me this. I'll give you my email address at the end of the show, and send me all the links, and I'll include them when in the description when these programs are uploaded to YouTube.
Absolutely, and I'll give you Stacey's contact.
Maybe you ought to point out what she would do at Hogwarts. Just how many times would she burn Harry Potter at the stake?
Right.
Now, I've met Stacey Gonzalez, and I don't understand how you could see the devil in her. I mean, if you could find a satanic look in that face, you could probably find a satanic look in my face.
Outrageous.
well.
Okay, we're coming to the end of the show. There's a couple of announcements I want to make. Scooter, I'll keep you on until the end of the show, and then we'll carry on the chat when we've stopped the show. So if you were worried that the program is going to stop bashing religion altogether, I hope that the last couple of minutes has assuaged those concerns. We will be back with full religion bashing on the 4th of March. And thereafter, things get a little bit more complicated because the 2 weeks after that is very close to the Reason Rally and the
largest secular gathering in history.
Yep.
Everyone should go.
Well, thank you. Which I will be there, and we will be doing a live Magic Sandwich show from the Atheist Convention. I think it's on the Saturday the 20. No, is it Sunday the 23rd? Aaron, is that right?
The Reason Rally is on the 24th. We're on the next day of the 25th.
Yeah.
That is, if I'm getting the dates wrong, that is the
no, you're right.
Sunday.
It's wrong. Yes.
Right,
Sunday,
and
it's Sunday
it won't
the 25th.
be at the usual time. It'll be at 5 o'clock Eastern time, which will be 4 o'clock Texas time, since I have to base everything on Texas time.
Yeah, and also what we are minded to do for the next show and subsequent shows, if it works well, is completely change the venue of where these shows are done. We'll probably be embedded onto Blog TV, but we're going to be using a site called Vocal. And the benefits of that are that it provides for much greater audience participation. For example, you'll be able to submit questions. Getting onto the show as someone calling in on video is going to be a lot easier. It has Twitter feeds, so if you're watching and you want to send us Twitter messages, it just makes the audience, as I say, the audience participation a lot easier. The quality is a lot better, and it is much more convenient for us to run it. There are a couple of problems with it that we want to ensure aren't going to cause any problems, but we are likely to be there. So if we do any promotional videos for the next event, please look out for them, because, as I say, it will contain information about where the show will be being broadcast from. So there we are. That takes us up nicely to 10 o'clock. So can I thank everyone that turned up to watch, and can I thank everyone on the panel? Any last words from any of you?
If I could just make a suggestion, you should maybe discuss Alan de Botton's latest book, Religion for Atheists. You heard about it?
No,
He's a
tell us.
majorly successful British philosopher who, whenever he puts out a book, 2 million copies are sold. He's on TED Talks. Go and watch the TED Talk about religion for atheists. I think he's the next wave of atheism. It's sort of a kinder, gentler atheism. You would love to bash him, I think.
I think isn't he the guy who says that we should adopt some of the social bonding elements of religion in the movement.
Yeah, we should basically look at what is good in religion and understand it. Take it up.
I've seen his. Yeah. He got he rubbed a lot of people up with saying that in a TED talk, but fundamentally, I think that he's right in that.
That's what I'm saying. I think it's the new wave of atheism. People are tired of the Richard Dawkinses of this world. They are. Most people.
Well, I just
that
wanted to
show. Do go on, Aaron.
I was just going to say that, and after that bombshell, I don't know that I can say that, so I'm going to say something else. Earlier this afternoon, I was also at a Fellowship of Free Thought meeting. I know of here in the Dallas area probably a half a dozen different atheist and secular groups that meet in a community basis that are not a lot unlike the church. And so they follow the benefits plan that this guy is talking about, definitely. And community outreach and all of that.
I think that there's this. I don't think it's so much that the Dawkins era is dead and has lost contribution.
It just smells like it.
Well, I think that it's one of these things to actually take it to a wider audience. You need other mechanisms.
Yeah.
And this guy suggests things like singing, and one of the things that I'm hopefully going to try and get is at the region rally to get the largest singing "Always Look on the Bright Side of Life." Because everyone knows the song. It's a happy song, and just before you draw your terminal breath. And so it's a happy song. It'll look great, and singing things together like this, it's a real bonding experience. It really does make you feel like a more cohesive group. So,
and I think
that's something that's been just lacking in the movement.
I agree with you. That's why I'm excited that Tim Minchin is going to be at the Reason Rally, and I'm happy about Shelley Segal is going to be there too, and performing nonetheless. But I also want to get Dawkins on our show to defend himself against these allegations that the world is tired of him. I don't hold with that.
How much more do you think you can say about that, Aaron?
I don't think I can say more than that. Not yet.
Dawkins has, he's what, 70 now? Past 70? He's, the only reason that people will hang in that late in the game is because they're doing it, they're on a mission, so to speak. And if you'd ask, is the community better off with or without it? It's one of these things. The torch has to be passed over at some point, but it's we lost Hitchens. You lose Dawkins as well, and who are you left with? I mean, you might say that these were the old sort of Randy as well. If you take a look at where is the next generation going to be coming from?
I think one of them's on the panel. Aaron Rand's going to be picking up the torch for us, I'm sure.
Yeah. No, I really think that you have to acknowledge that there will be phases in any kind of development, and you have the beginning phase was militant atheism. We have had enough. Those people, the religious crowd, they're idiots, and they come right out and say it, and that's fine. But at some point, you can't get any further with saying religious people are just fucking crazy, and then you have sort of second wave.
I would probably actually the natural frequency of changing populations is decades to tens of decades, and so I don't think the militant atheism's only been around for a decade or so now.
But it's sort of it broke atheism in the Western world. It was like, oh yeah, we forgot about atheism. Now it's here.
But in many senses, across the whole of Europe, no one actually gave a shit about any of this because religion's not. The only place that I ever saw any of this as really being an issue was in America. where you've got this, 30% probably block of what I would call religious crazies, who really do believe that the Earth is 10,000 years old, created by God, there's a big flood, and all that sort of thing.
The problem is that these people don't realize. These people don't realize that.
One at a time.
One of you.
Yeah. People do not realize that they are religious extremists. Here in the United States, most of the believers believe what they believe because that's what they've always been told to believe. That's what everybody else believes, and they're largely apathetic. The same is true of most atheists. Most atheists are not interested in religion. Most Christians are not interested in religions. They're both apathetic. Many times people will think that they're Christian when they're actually atheists because they don't really believe in all of that stuff. They call themselves Christian in the same reason that people are culturally Jewish. I've also met cultural Hindus. The problem is that while a lot of Christians, most Christians, in fact, have not read the Bible, nor will they ever. They will never read any of the materials that come from the evangelicals. They'll never watch Pat Robertson. They will never listen to any of these ministers. And if they did any of these things, they would probably rethink their entire position. The problem is that you have the radical fringe that is guiding the apathetic masses. And thus, in atheism, you cannot dispense with atheist activists because we have to face on the radical fringe that is doing so much damage, I think, in our government and our society.
Yeah, I just think that if you talk about media and the larger crowd of non-believers, atheists, agnostics, and so on, a lot of them are put off by that very, very radical militant atheist rhetoric. At this time, we've heard it.
I think that's true, but I just want to very quickly go back to a point that Aaron made when he said these people won't watch Pat Robertson and they won't watch other extremists, and if they did, they'd realise or change their position or something. They probably wouldn't, would they? Is it not much more likely that they would just say, "Oh, well, he's not a real Christian. That's not what Christianity is"?
That's the mistake, or that is the excuse that most people come up with. They say that he's not a real Christian. They dismiss that person because that person's not like this other person that they might be thinking about. And they will make excuses for this other person, too. This weekend, for example, I gave a presentation at this college where I was criticizing William Lane Craig, and there happened to be a William Lane Craig defender in the audience who told me that I was not adequately addressing creationism since I did not criticize the arguments that were put forth by the very best creationist apologist. And I said that if William Lane Craig was the best apologist that they had, then why does he have to turn to deliberate deceit? Because I already proven that he was lying on a specific point. And the guy made it his excuse. He said, you only proved that he was lying once. So the best defense is a guy who has to lie, but they'll make excuses for that. This is the thing that bewilders me about religion. The number one reason why people discard religion turns out to be not the batshit crazy comments that the other religionists say, because they'll make excuses for that. The number one thing that breaks people away from religion is the religion itself. When they crack open the Bible and decide to finally read it, that's when they say, whoa, wait, nobody told me this mess was in here.
Yeah.
On that bombshell that William Lane Craig is dishonest, shall we wrap up the program?